Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Monday, February 21st, 2022, and in today's announcement from the Conservative Political Action Conference, Representative Tulsi Gabbard, someone who had ran for the 2020 Democratic presidential nominee, will be speaking at this very much well-known Republican event led by conservatives and has been strictly Republicans and independents for the past 8 years now. Tulsi Gabbard now breaking that stereotype, being the first Democrat since 2013 to speak at this CPAC event besides those who had switched political parties in an effort in what many people see as potentially gearing up for a future presidential election bid. Now, this is something that I truly believe was not necessarily on anyone's bingo card for this election year. I think many people did expect Tulsi Gabbard to continue her tirade against President Joe Biden on Fox News and continue to speak to conservative talk show hosts, but to go to the extent of speaking at a conservative event sort of aligns her exactly where Democrats were afraid she did end up aligning with, and it sort of confirms all of the suspicions from Democrats prior to. When Hillary Clinton called Tulsi Gabbard an enemy of the Democratic Party, many people renounced that as pretty much Hillary Clinton being, in many ways, a sore loser, someone who had just been going against this long-esteemed Democratic politician from Hawaii who had a very high level of approval, who was consistently winning re-election as recently as 2018, more so than Democrats were doing on the presidential level, winning 77.4% of the vote in her last election in her congressional district. A lot of people saw this as pretty much a centrist versus progressive ideology sort of end up showing itself. But Tulsi Gabbard, instead of being more on the progressive side, decided to move further and further towards the right, and now we start to see the true benefits of this type of shift in ideology, shift in outreach, and shift in support when it comes down to the Democratic Party. I think one of the first steps that we saw for Tulsi Gabbard for her future political campaigns or her future in politics altogether was the fact that she voted present on Donald Trump's impeachment this 2021 time around. Tulsi Gabbard voting present was a very big thing because she was the only politician, the only member of the House who had voted present. Across all 435 members, she was the only one who voted present. Every Democrat had voted to convict. Some Republicans had joined them party side, and then Republicans, almost all of them, voted against it, but she was the only one who decided not to speak on it, and it was a big deal. That present vote truly was the trajectory changer for Tulsi Gabbard, and in many ways, she was attacked by the Democratic Party. And now she is speaking at the Conservative Political Action Conference. I think that this is something that really is taking us by surprise, not necessarily that she is speaking, but that she is going so far out against the Democratic Party so early on. And I think that with this speaking role that she has at CPAC, she certainly can be preparing herself for a 2024 or 2028 presidential election bid. You have to ask yourself, Tulsi Gabbard running for president in 2020 really didn't make much sense. When you actually take a look at when she announced her campaign, she was 37 years old when she announced her presidential election campaign. So she would have been the youngest president ever elected if she was to make it. And she was the last Democrat running against Joe Biden. By everything that was said and done, Tulsi Gabbard had remained in the race for the longest period of time, at least from when everyone else had dropped out. Even Bernie Sanders dropped out before Tulsi Gabbard. So Tulsi Gabbard definitely remained in the race for whatever reason, decided to drop out shortly after, but at the end of the day, she was in that race truly till the end. She did not give up fighting, and while she may not necessarily have been a top-tier name, she was there likely for her own political benefit. Because you do have to ask, and like I said just a minute ago, you have to ask, why did she do this? When you take a look at the 2018 House election results in the 2nd District of Hawaii, she was winning here with 77.4% of the vote. I mean, you have to question, what are her motivations? Even with all of this being brought up against her, with her being, siding with the GOP on many issues, with her speaking out against, different types of politicians, against Joe Biden in particular, what we find here is that right before the 2020 election, her approval rating was still 44%. While that's low in Hawaii, it could very well be enough to win a primary, considering that those who typically support Tulsi Gabbard are Democrats. With a 41% disapproval rating, it didn't look like she was going to lose, at least to a Republican. All she had to do was make it through a primary again, but at this point in time, she wasn't even a candidate on the list. She was not running for re-election, and that likely could have been shifting some of her political views altogether, because had she remained in the House, she would have been at the, pretty much at the, what is the word for it? I'm blanking here. Pretty much the voters here would be able to take her back at any point. Anytime they had a primary election, they could easily say that they no longer want Tulsi Gabbard, and that nearly happened in 2020. But she ended up being replaced because she decided not to run for re-election, but she sort of pushed it away, further and further away from the Democratic Party as things went on. And, for me, as someone who sees this from an analytical standpoint, Tulsi Gabbard is young. Tulsi Gabbard is someone who has a bright political future, and I think it could lie within the Republican Party. Taking a look at her history in the state of Hawaii, she did not need to leave the House. Truly put, she could have been fine here, and many politicians have decided to run for president while also running for Senate, governor, and House of Representatives. I mean, these are things that people often coincide with their elections. Even President Joe Biden, when he was Barack Obama's vice presidential nominee, he was also on the ballot for Senate in Delaware just in case the presidential election didn't work out. He didn't choose to retire. He decided to stay on the ballot because, like many politicians, they want to protect themselves before they actually relinquish a position. Tulsi Gabbard did not need to relinquish such a position. But keep in mind that she is 40 years old at this point in time. She served as the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee before she could have even been president of the United States. I mean, if you talk about anyone who has had such a successful climb in the political universe on both sides of the aisle, Tulsi Gabbard probably is that. And this is not me trying at all to praise her or vilify her or paint her in any type of positive or negative depiction, but what I am trying to point out to you is that Tulsi Gabbard is a politician. And like all politicians, she knows how to play the game. And it's very clear that she has done it so successfully. She was born in 1981. Ronald Reagan was already within his first term when Tulsi Gabbard was born. And now she's one of the more recognizable names across the nation, and especially amongst those who closely watch politics, probably an extremely recognizable name. And now with her announcement that she is speaking at CPAC, this would add to this idea that Tulsi Gabbard, being the politician that she is, has political aspirations well beyond representing the 2nd District of Hawaii. She won't win another Democratic primary. She will not be in that position where she can do it. But could she win a Republican primary? Nationwide? I mean, it's possible. Tulsi Gabbard putting herself in this position definitely sets her up to run in 2024 or beyond. The fact that she's going to be speaking alongside those like President Donald Trump, like Donald Trump Jr., like Ron DeSantis, like Candace Owens. I mean, when you go down this list, Ted Cruz, Mike Pompeo, right? Who do you have? You have all of these top names. You have governors. You have celebrities. You have all of these speakers. So many after every single person. All of these people are somewhat recognizable within the GOP. And then you have that sore thumb. That one thing that strikes out on the page as different than the rest, and it is Representative Tulsi Gabbard. I think that this is a way for her to expose herself to the Republican electorate. Think about how this looks. I want you to truly look at this as a means of, an analytical point of view. Tulsi Gabbard runs for the Democratic nomination. She paints this idea that she has seen it all within the Democratic Party, that she, serving as the vice chair of the DNC, no longer wants to do anything with the Democratic Party, and that she has seen them in a corrupt way, she has seen them in a negative way. It has made her so angry against the Democrats that she is now a Republican. It started off with her on Fox News. It started off under the Obama administration. It started off with her speaking against Joe Biden, with her multiple attacks against all of these Democratic potential contenders for 2020. She gets on Joe Rogan. She gets onto all of these conservative talk show hosts. She speaks on Fox News routinely. And then now she ends up at CPAC. And then she switches parties. And then she turns to the Republican electorate and says, look at me. I'm a young woman of color, and I can represent your constituents, and I can represent you on the nationwide level. I know how to beat the Democrats at their own game. I strategized for them on the national position, and I've seen it all. I know how bad the Democratic Party is, and that's why I'm turning to you. That's why I've been in support of you. That's why I didn't vote to convict President Donald Trump. Tulsi Gabbard is playing the long game, and it seems to be working out perfectly. The Republican Party is embracing her, the Democratic Party is shifting her out, and everything seems to be gearing up for a Tulsi Gabbard number 1 party switch and number 2 presidential election bid. When you are 40 years old and the President of the United States was elected in his late 70s, you know there is more for you out there. When Tulsi Gabbard becomes a more recognizable name after her speech at CPAC, especially amongst Republicans, she will be in an extremely powerful position to run in 2024. Forget Chris Christie, forget Ted Cruz, forget Chris Sununu, forget all of these people. If there was anyone to be a dark horse type candidate, and this has actually been in some very large discussions, it would be Tulsi Gabbard. And there's a discussion here not only that she might run for president, but that in this upcoming election, she might be someone's vice presidential nominee. And again, I think it would play very, very well. Tulsi Gabbard comes across as the Democrat who left because of their party, who left because they couldn't stand to be with such a left-leaning ideology. Even though she started out as one of the more progressive, in fact, maybe the most progressive candidate running in the 2020 Democratic primary, she has taken a huge step towards the right. And it's all likely for her own political benefit. I mean, I don't see any reason why else she would do this. And I think that it becomes increasingly more likely that she actually does run for president. And while this may just be a theory among some political analysts like myself, I think that we are starting to see the early signs of a potential presidential contender. She's making a name for herself. She's using the media as a means of advancing her political profile. And now she's speaking at one of the most esteemed Republican events in the nation. Think about how... Sorry about that. Oh my gosh. I just started messing up with my own words here. Think about how many Republicans want to speak at CPAC, right? Think about all of these people in super coveted positions. I mean, you are going to be speaking on the same stage on the same day as Ron DeSantis, as Donald Trump Jr., as all of these top tier politicians. And you are a Democrat. And you are the only Democrat on this entire list. There goes up. You know, all of you connected together, you seem to be another Republican. So when you turn to this same electorate that is infatuated by Trump, that is infatuated by Ron DeSantis, that is infatuated by Candace Owens, by Ted Cruz, by all of these people, you will become a recognizable name and one that they trust. You will be sharing the stage with many, many of these politicians who will refuse to condemn you, who will refuse to attack you, because it looks like you're on their side now. Tulsi Gabbard is probably one of the smartest people, politically speaking, that I have ever covered on this channel. I think that she has gone from what was a shining star within the Democratic Party who realized that she wouldn't get the 2020 Democratic nomination and that she wouldn't be the vice presidential nominee, that she wouldn't be able to make a name for herself, right? And I think that with that in consideration, she decided to shift and thus grift. I think Tulsi Gabbard is playing a smart game. I'm not one to criticize or, elevate someone's platform because I think they're doing something right or wrong. But what I am analyzing and what I do see as a very clear, road for Tulsi Gabbard, that she will run for president. I think that she will do it again, and I think this time it will not be under the Democratic Party. And if it is under the Democratic Party once again, I think she will take a stance that is more conservative Democrat, that she uses in an effort to win over Republican Party voters. Every single thing that a politician does is for themselves. And I think that that's something that we need to realize, or at least most politicians. I'm not going to say all because I don't think that every politician has something, negatively being associated with them. But it also isn't necessarily something that is negative about politicians wanting to work for themselves. I think when you look at the political arena, it's just sort of our reality. Whether it's right or wrong doesn't matter for the point of argument right now. What we're looking at here is what other politicians are doing, and we see it happening with Tulsi Gabbard, except it's happening on the exact opposite side. In terms of what I expect beyond this, I think Tulsi Gabbard will, after speaking at CPAC this weekend, it's literally going to be in 7 days from now, we are going to already have known what she has said at CPAC. Looking at this, I think that next she switches political parties, then she decides that she's going to run in 2024, or she stays with the Democratic Party, continues attacking them as the token Democrat of, a commentator desk. On a right-wing media source, not necessarily anything mainstream, though I do think she will stay with Fox News. I think more so that she will speak with some of the more lesser-known but well-known amongst the conservative community, conservative talk show hosts, and then she will decide to either let President Trump run in 2024, potentially win or lose, and then end up later down the line. But Tulsi Gabbard is 40 years old. She has effectively 30 more years to strategize about what she's going to do for president, and I think many people, like herself, have ran more than once. Donald Trump, he is someone who is a bit of an anomaly. Even though he did run for president, actually, in 2000, technically speaking, he also ran in 2020 and lost, and is likely, again, going to run in 2024. And I think a lot of that does determine Tulsi Gabbard's timeline here. I think that from what we've seen so far, she is going to be a presidential contender, and it doesn't really matter which side she's on right now. The Democrats aren't happy with her, the Republicans are. And I think this only benefits her on the GOP side. Until she actually switches political parties, though, I don't think she's going to be able to be a top-tier Republican contender or, even Democratic contender. If she decides to run for the Democratic Party again, she's not going to get the nomination, but truly speaking, I could imagine her becoming the Republican nominee for president. Again, like I said, she is smart. She knows what she's doing, and she has what it takes to become the next president of the United States, as do many politicians on that potential list. The question is, how does she get there? She needs to do a lot more political maneuvering. She needs to convince a lot more Republicans that she is on their side. And I think that this speech at CPAC truly could solidify that if she has a major moment here that is highly covered by the mainstream political media. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2024 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.